welcome to Escaping Kasterborous, the podcast where we rewatch, reminisce, and review everything Doctor Who from 2005 to present. Happy New Year, by the way. My name is Rich. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see my face. Hello, and I'm joined by the absolute idiot who's agreed to marry me this year. It's Amy.
Hello.
And you can see her as well.
That's
Look, we're
me.
waving. As soon as I started introducing, I was looking at the screen and I was like, no, wait, I need to look at the camera because...
Yeah, I just thought that. I was like, oh, my camera's there, but my screen is there. So if I'm looking like not at the camera, it's going to be a bit odd, but it will just have
So
to do.
welcome, everyone, to a brand new year of Escaping Kasterborous. Of course, we said to you at the end of last year that we're going to be a lot better at... producing this podcast and doing it more frequently. We've literally got the entire year noted down with weekends to do the podcast. It's like, I think we did it once every 4 weeks.
No,
3 weeks. Either way, it's something, and we've actually, and
Something
so
like
far
that.
we have stuck to the first date, which is today. So 100% track record, boys. But welcome to a special episode of the Kasterpod, because today we're doing a big Q&A. We're not kicking off with Series 4 just yet. We will be next time. But at the end of last year, across Anchor or Spotify, Twitter and YouTube, we asked you all for loads of questions about anything at all. And I will say thank you for only a couple of Doctor Who questions that aren't actually related to the show specifically. So thank you for that, because I think I said this in the podcast at the end of last year that whenever I do a Q&A on like Instagram or something, it's just Doctor Who. It's just all Doctor Who. It's like I can talk about other things, and yet we get to today, which is great. How was your
I'm
Christmas,
really
Ames?
Yeah, well, my Christmas was the same as your Christmas, funnily enough.
Really, what gave that away?
But for the people at home, that feels really odd saying that. I've never done this before. Hi, everybody. This is like one of my first times on camera that's not a home video
That's
edit,
true,
so
actually,
welcome. Yeah, we had a good Christmas. We spent Christmas Eve and Christmas Day at my mum's house. And then we went to Rich's family on Boxing Day morning, like really early in the morning, no traffic. It was an
great, yeah.
Beautiful ride. Beautiful sunrise as well, which we saw on the way up. Clear blue skies, it was gorgeous. And then spent Boxing Day and 2 more days at your parents' house. And then we came home, had a day off, then had a game day, and then had New Year's Eve round at our house, which was really nice.
Pizza and a buffet and Jackbox and some card games, and it was...
Who doesn't love pizza and a buffet?
It was great. So yeah, we hope that all of you had lovely Christmases or holidays or whatever you celebrate as well, and I hope that...
Feels really weird saying that because it's the 22nd
Yeah, I
of
know.
January
And I hope that...
which it feels like Christmas was like months
And I hope your
ago.
January hasn't been too depressing, because a lot of people don't see January as a great time. Thankfully this year, I think we both escaped the January blues.
We've not done too badly, but I think that's both because we got paid on a normal day. So it wasn't like... Well, you didn't. I got paid literally the same week I would normally get paid. So for me, I'm just working through a normal month, whereas I think for a lot of people, it's the money struggles in January, isn't it?
So, I mean, it's been good, but most of today, we're going to be talking about things that you have asked us across loads of social media. And we've got the big list of questions. There's quite a lot, so we might be here for a while. But that's fine. That's what we said we'd do. And Amy and I are going to take it in turns to be asking the questions to each other. I mean, most of these are for both of us, but there are some questions that are specific to me, specific to Amy, etc., etc., etc. So, we're going to kick off with the lovely people on Spotify. Because if you are listening on Spotify, you can go on the show page. There's like a button that says like Q&A or something, and you can literally ask questions for us directly through Spotify. Because we're looking at our lovely pie charts on the back end, we can see that the vast majority of you listen to this podcast on Spotify, so you have access to that really nice functionality. And thank you for that, Spotify, because it's actually worked really well for us.
Much appreciated.
Matt, first of all, hello, Matt. Good afternoon.
Hello.
Happy New Year. So, I tend to listen to this on my own, as my wife is a bit hit and miss on Doctor Who, but is an absolute nut for Disney. So, in your opinion, favourite Disney film, ride and park, and why to all? Go, Amy.
Good question. So favourite Disney film was a bit of a tough one for me, because my favourite princess, in case you can't see from my background... I've got her there. I've got her 3 times here, is Ariel. And The Little Mermaid, for me, is like absolute childhood nostalgia. It came out in 1989, so it was, 6 years before we were born. And I grew up watching Disney. Like, my nan used to buy us all of the Disney films on VHS when we were kids. And yes, VHS, because that's the age we're getting to now. And yeah, so Little Mermaid was always my favourite film. However, I do also really, really like Tangled. So it's a bit of a tough one for me, but I think Ariel probably, like The Little Mermaid, probably edges it out just because it's got that pure nostalgia factor, and she is like always been my princess. I'm like obsessed with her. So yeah, probably The Little Mermaid.
Ride
for me.
and park.
Oh, favorite park? Does that include all of the Disney parks?
I think it'd be
around the world,
specific.
or...
Yeah, specific park. So you can't say Disney World because that's 4 parks.
No, that's the resort kind of situation, isn't it?
Do you want to think? I tell you what, you can think about this. While
you answer your favorite.
I'll do my film, and for me, that's gonna be Lilo and Stitch, because I have a hell of a lot of Stitches across my existence. I literally have 2 Stitch ornaments on my desk, looking at me right now. And if you look in our bedroom, we have got too many Stitch plushies and Stitch toys, because I bought one of them, and that was from Disneyland Paris in like 2010, and then ever since then, just anybody that knows me is like Stitch plush, Stitch plush, Stitch plush. I've got loads of them now, so we're having a bit of a clear out and donating a bunch of them to charity shops, but I've got so many Stitch plushies. So Lilo and Stitch is like the main one, but I think the one that I've watched the most that is very much level with Lilo and Stitch is Treasure Planet, which is one of the most underrated Disney films, if not the most underrated Disney film. Atlantis is up there, but not the same level. But Treasure Planet, I love Treasure Planet so much.
Yeah, it's a very good film.
So yeah, it's going to be that. Amy, what about your park then? Park and ride. Park and ride like a bus.
So I think I much prefer Florida to Paris, having done both.
Yeah, that's fair.
In terms of favourite park, I'm probably going to have to go with Magic Kingdom.
That's fair.
Like, I loved Hollywood Studios for the vibe. But for me, Magic Kingdom just encompasses that all Disney feeling, and it's got a lot of rides. It's got so many kind of characters wandering around and just that whole vibe. And also it's where we spent the Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party, which was literally like one of the best days of my entire life, because I absolutely adore Halloween and autumn and everything encompassing it.
Well, that answers a question from later on in the podcast. So yeah, that works.
Well, I'd probably go with Magic Kingdom. And favourite ride is a tough one, because I really enjoyed Tower of Terror, but I also absolutely adored Guardians of the Galaxy.
Cosmic Rewind at Epcot. That was pretty baller.
Oh, I think Guardians just edges out Tower of Terror for me because I've done Tower of Terror before and so many times, whereas Guardians, we rode it for the first time and it was absolutely incredible. And we had
Earth, Wind and Fire September the first time.
Earth, Wind and Fire September.
And it was like the perfect music for that ride.
It was incredible.
Guardians.
So, yeah, and now every time I hear that song, I just think of being on Cosmic Rewind.
What a coaster,
so, yeah,
honestly.
Probably Guardians.
Yeah, that was really good. For me, it's, again, it's Florida. It's going to be Hollywood Studios because, as Amy said, the vibe in Hollywood Studios is fantastic. I love the way the park's laid out. I love all of the architecture, the fact that it's obviously, the golden era of Hollywood in the 1930s. And there's a lot of big band music going on, which I'm super here for. So hearing Glenn Miller while I'm walking around in my shorts in November in a theme park, it's like, this is like crack to me. So I love Hollywood Studios, and a massive contributing factor to that is my favorite ride, which is the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. Which I have a fun story about that, because when we went to Disneyland Paris in, what would it have been, 2007, when they were celebrating the 15th anniversary of Disney World, and bear in mind Disneyland Paris, bear in mind it's the 30th anniversary this year. So I went when it was in the 15th year, when they had the big 15 badge on the castle, and it was just after they opened the Tower of Terror in Paris, because they obviously original one's Florida, then they opened it in California, then they opened it in Paris. Although California wasn't going to happen, Paris was going to be first. But anyway, fun facts. And when I was younger, I was like 12 at this point, and I was terrified of everything. I was such a wimp. Like, anything even remotely horror based or jump scare, nope, not interested. I will not like it at all. And I remember doing the tram tour back when that was a thing. I don't know if it is at Disney anymore, at Paris. I know it's not in Florida. But I remember doing that, and we went past the Tower of Terror, like round the back of it, and I was just looking at all of the architecture, all the scenery, and I'm like, oh, this looks really creepy. And we obviously went on it in the end, and I literally just cried. I had my hat over my eyes. I couldn't do it. And similar to other things, like I'm sure people have this, where you get scared by something and then you just become infatuated with it. Like that was how it was for me with the Tower of Terror. Like gornography, great word, hate what it is. Like Saw, Hostel, stuff like that. Like I can't stand any of that stuff. I hate that stuff.
Me either.
And I found myself going down the rabbit hole of Saw traps on YouTube and reading up on the lore, because all the backstory of Saw and John Kramer's was actually really quite interesting. And I hate it. So like getting that sort of infatuated with something like the Tower of Terror. And then I've been to Paris once or twice since then. No, twice, but technically not the studios the first time. But when we went at uni, and we rode Tower of Terror again, I was just like, I'm all here for this. I'm super here for this. And then obviously we went to Florida. Riding the original one in Florida was like on my bucket list, so I got to do that. I bought all the merch. You can probably see my little Tower of Terror pop vinyl behind me, just there, look.
Just about.
So, that was
we
the
won't
big
talk
one
about
for
the fact that when we went to Paris in, what was it, 2015?
2014, 2015.
That I cried.
Oh, you did, didn't you? Yeah. It's great, the picture of us. There's the three, there's me, there's two other friends, and there's Amy, and we're all there like, oh, this is wicked, and Amy's there like, oh.
I mean, like literal terror, like floods of tears.
It's because it's so good.
Because
it's so
ridiculous.
good.
Because I love roller coasters and I really enjoyed the ride, but for some reason I just proper freaked out.
I think the storytelling in that attraction, the way that it's built, I think that's one of the things that gives me so much respect for it, is it's not in a big metal show building behind some trees. They've actually gone and built this entire structure, and the whole story, the whole experience is encapsulated within what is a tangible building. And I think that sets it apart from everything else Imagineers have done. And they've done it 4 times. 2 Art Deco towers, one they ruined into Guardians of the Galaxy, which apparently is still quite good, but it's not the Tower of Terror. Original one is still fantastic. Paris one is still going, and that keeps getting updated. The one in Tokyo is slightly different because it doesn't have the Twilight Zone license, because people in Asia don't know the Twilight Zone, so it's got its own story, which is brilliant. So it's like, I love it to pieces. That and the Parisian Space Mountain is the best one. Get rid of the Star Wars overlay, Disney. Come on. Put it back to what it used to be, and I'll be happy. But that actually that middle part of that question from Matt actually answers G Champion 22's question, which is next, about your guys' favourite Disney movies. But next, it's Jay Boswell.
Hello. I should say hello to the camera. Hello. But hello. What are your thoughts on the Disney live action remakes? Personally, I think they're all right, but could be better. My favourite one is Christopher Robin, because it actually does something different.
I don't know why I got you to read that question, because I have not seen any of the Disney live action remakes. I literally haven't seen any of them.
Okay.
So
But you have opinions on them, though, don't you?
I get that it's a cash grab. Really, I understand that they're playing up on nostalgia. They can do something slightly different. They can take away some of the more questionable things about the previous films, like the birds in Dumbo are a bit sus for their time.
I literally haven't watched
I think it's in Dumbo.
In years, because
I think
it
they're a
creeps
bit of
me
a.
out too
I know
much.
I think it is Dumbo. There's like some racial stereotype stuff. There's actually a question about this on our big list.
There's probably a lot of them, but
I understand that you can take it, you can refine it, you can improve it in some regards, in terms of narrative. But I think just generally, it's a cash grab, and some of them land, some of them don't, and I'm personally not interested. The fact they said they were going to do a Lilo and Stitch one, it's like, no, just leave it alone. Leave them alone.
That's not good. So the live action remakes are a bit of an odd one, because back in when they first started being made, which was when they did, God, I want to say like the first live action remake was a 2015 Cinderella film.
I think it was
2015.
I thought it was early. I thought it was like 2011.
Oh, it might have been.
I'm gonna have to check this now.
Then. I can't remember.
I think Cinderella was the first one.
With Lily James.
No, it's 2015. You're right. I thought it was earlier than that.
Don't question me on Disney
All right,
Boy.
I'm sorry.
I think it was Lily James who played Cinderella
yeah.
in that film. I watched that film and was kind of like, what is this? But there've been so many Cinderella movies, that I was kind of like, oh, so this is just another Cinderella story type film. I didn't realise that it was actually them remaking, like, the full kind of Cinderella thing. And I was kind of like, oh, okay. And then I feel like we didn't see one for ages. And then the next one that I really paid attention to was when they remade Beauty and the Beast with Emma Watson, which actually I really like that film. Strangely, Beauty and the Beast was one of those films as a kid that I really liked, and I don't really think that I liked it as much as I did until I go back and watch it now, and I'm like, oh, actually, I really like this film. And I really enjoyed the story. I think it's a really good one. And the live-action remake I thought was okay. I thought it did it okay justice. I'm obviously a huge Emma Watson fan because of Harry Potter, but also other films that she's been in. She was in Perks of Being a Wallflower, which is literally like my favourite film in the whole history of the planet. And so I love her anyway. So seeing her in this, I thought like, oh, realistically, out of everyone they could have cast to play Belle that everybody knew, Emma Watson was kind of a good choice. What you think of her acting skills is kind of besides the point. I thought she fit the role quite well. So I like that one. But the rest of them are all falling a little bit flat on their faces, and it's a bit difficult to watch them kind of redoing all of them, especially now that I know they've redone The Little Mermaid, and I'm really, really pleased that they've cast, is it Halle Bailey?
Yes.
I always go to call her Halle Berry, and I'm like, no, that's
somebody
not
else.
Halle Bailey. I'm really pleased that they've cast her in the role of The Little Mermaid because she's a fantastic singer, and she will do excellent in the role, and I don't give a crap whether she's coloured or not. Like, that doesn't matter to me in the slightest. So I think it will be a really, really good casting. I'm just unsure as to how it's
just the justification of doing it, really.
I thought The Lion King was a flop.
Well, it loses all emotion. Like, while on a technical level it's impressive, but it's like you don't have the emotive side. Like, I saw a thing of Mufasa getting trampled scene, and there's just no emotion in it whatsoever.
Nothing.
It's like, well, what? I get why you're trying to do it, and I get you've got an amazing cast behind it, but it loses all of the magic.
It kind of removes the sort of nostalgic memory of the original for me, and I love the original Lion King. Basically anything in the Renaissance is like my era because that's where we grew up, and the Jungle Book was weird. Didn't enjoy the Jungle Book live action remake. Just, they're all a bit strange. I haven't seen any of them where they talk about Disney as a topic as opposed to the live action remakes. Like, I know that there's the Saving Mr. Banks one.
I want to watch that.
I know that there's Christopher Robin, and I've not actually seen any of those, so I can't really comment on how they would be as films, but I would imagine they would be a much more enjoyable because they're not just recreating a story that's already been done. I do believe that there's something in to do with the licensing at Disney,
I think they have to remake. They're remaking Snow White
25 years
with
or
Rachel Zelger because of the potential of it going into the public domain. Obviously, things like Snow White are public domain stories anyway, but I think it's the Disney specific thing. It's why they keep doing like redesigns of Mickey Mouse, because they need to try and keep Mickey Mouse's copyright within the company. Otherwise, it goes to the public domain, and all hell breaks loose. So
can you imagine? God. So they're kind of a hit and miss for me.
So Ben
basically.
Evelent asks, hey guys, as a 20-year-old uni student who's stumbling through life, I wanted to know whether you knew exactly what you wanted to do career-wise while you were at uni. Many thanks, from Ben.
Not a clue.
I was going to say, you were kind of uncertain.
I did photography at uni and can safely say I literally never use it. I did use it for a short while during my baking business when that was a thing.
And you did work at a photography studio-y thing, didn't you? That was a whole... that was another
story for another time. Wasn't really. So, no was the answer. I thought I wanted to get into photography, struggled for a few years to try and get into the industry, and then decided that actually I spent more time making coffee, being a barista, and then decided to bake cakes, and now I work for the NHS. So things change, you know.
Yeah, I think to answer this, I suppose it's not necessarily that you need to know exactly what you want to do. Like I knew the direction I wanted to go in, but I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, and I left uni. So when I finished university, I was applying for jobs in, you know, video production, radio, some YouTube stuff as well. I applied for tons of stuff. It's the best thing that I could suggest if you're uncertain about what you want to do when you finish uni, when you graduate, is honestly jump straight into it. Take the momentum of doing uni and go straight into the world of looking for work. It's going to take you an age, and it's an absolute bastard. It's the way things go. But I think if you kind of take that, it's almost like if you treat that summer like a summer holiday, your motivation, your momentum is going to slow down, and then you'll kind of find yourself, you know, you'll move home. You'll be like, I don't know what I want to do. You might end up getting a job doing something not relevant to your degree, for example. Like you go, I mean, I think I was working for my dad's company doing sign making, graphic design. I was working for a hotel bar restaurant. So it's like I was doing stuff before I got my first job after uni was WhoCulture, by the way. So I spent that time just looking for work and continually trying to find something. So it's like if you're wanting to go in the direction of your degree, which obviously not everyone does, maybe is a prime example of that, but just keep the momentum going. And obviously I ended up at WhoCulture. That was what came up. I nearly landed a job at another company in Norwich, which I was gutted I didn't get, but hey ho, whatever. But I tried a load of things. So I guess just keep going, basically. Keep going. You got this, Ben. You'll find something.
Give it your best shot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Daniel Freese asks you specifically, Rich, on this
Hello.
one. Is there ever a chance of any further collaboration with the great Egg from WhoCulture? I always love seeing you and Jules together.
Do you know what? Never say never, but I mean, behind the scenes, I still work with Jules semi on the reg, as it were, because obviously Jules does live in Let's Dice, and I've helped him a lot with that in terms of branding and bits and pieces like that. We've got some stuff in the works, actually. But I still talk to Jules a lot. And getting to do a video with him in some description was absolutely on the cards. When I was at Traction, we discussed getting Jules to Silverstone to do a video with Traction about driving and racing games, because we could, or board. Actually, no, yeah, I think we originally planned we were going to do like a video of Jules doing some sim racing, because Jules doesn't drive, which makes it more fun, and then do something for Live and Let's Dice, to picking up like Downforce, which is a board game about racing cars, or Grand Prix. There was a Kickstarter one, but there was always the potential. And obviously now that I'm doing what I do, you know, I there's not really much we can collaborate on unless we just do it in our own time. And I suppose I'd love to. I mean, if Jules' streams on Live and Let's Dice are during my work hours, so if there was ever a point to do a stream with Jules, I'd have to like take an afternoon off to do it. But I'd 100% be down for something. I might see if I can just get him to do a Doctor Who video with me. I'll just sit him down and make him watch Doctor Who or something.
Yeah.
But never say never. But yeah, it would be great too. And obviously the stuff that we did together, mainly These Things Suck, was such good fun. We worked so well together. Jules was able to come up with a stupid idea, and I would make it look even more stupid in post. So we work very well together, and I miss working with Jules a lot. So never say never, Daniel. Never say never. Easy Hayward says or asks, I love EK because I trust your opinions to be well thought out and not overly biased. Well, thank you. My question is, what do you quote in your day-to-day life? I quote Doctor Who a lot, but also I think that means BBC Ghosts, because I'm obsessed.
For us, it's mostly memes.
Yeah, we're kind of one of those really cringy meme couples that just quote random crap to each other.
We tend to just watch really... There's a YouTube channel that we specifically watch, which is called...
Unusual Memes.
Unusual Memes. And, well, it's unusual videos, but then the content is called Unusual Memes.
The compilations are called Unusual Memes.
Oh, we love it.
We just find ourselves quoting stuff, but I think, honestly, the main thing I think we quote to each other is probably Dank Pods. Because people obviously know Dank Pods quite well now, because his channel has blown up And we watch Dank Pods a lot. We've missed stuff. We need to catch up on a lot of content from him. But I've been watching his stuff for years when he was doing Dankmas, which is just Simpsons remixes. But the amount of time that we're quoting like my Puxel and stuff like that from Dank Pods, and we literally they just released the plushies of the One Grit and Frank the Snake. So we didn't get a Frank, but we got a One Grit. So now we have a One Grit plush on our sofa. So we quote Dank Pods to each other a lot. So
which, for anyone who doesn't know, a One Grit is literally a giant.
It's just a bit of gravel that he breaks things with.
One Grit written on it,
and it's great fun. So if you've not watched Dank Pods, go watch Dank Pods. But genuinely, that's kind of what we quote. We quote bits and bobs of TV to each other, but not really. It's normally just meme crap, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ah, well.
Oh, I'm very sorry if I mispronounced this name. Taryn Veneras. I hope that's almost right. I apologise. How did you two meet? I met my husband in high school after he dressed up as Jack Sparrow to host the Halloween show. I mentioned to a mutual friend that he looked so real and then was introduced. 18 years and we're still together. That's really lovely. I know a few other people have also asked this question.
Yeah, TJC on Spotify and also Misha Peer on Twitter asked the exact same thing. So
thank you.
So we met almost just over 9 years ago at university because Amy and I both went to Coventry University. Amy was studying photography, I was studying media production. And because of the courses we did, there was media production, media and communications, media and journalism, and photography. They were kind of grouped together in a 4 because every year there was a module where all 4 of these courses would come together and we get put into groups like between courses. So it's kind of like fate was going to bring us together eventually because we were on kind of part sister courses, kind of, sort of, not really. But the reason that Amy and I met is because we both joined the Musical Theatre Society because we're both big theatre nuts. And we both joined musical theatre, and we kind of properly first started talking in like late November, December, I think.
Yeah, we met at the Christmas party.
That was when we really started talking.
We'd met a little bit before that, but you had a girlfriend.
And you were trying to knob my roommate.
Funnily enough, I was trying to get on with your best mate, which didn't go anywhere. And then you and your girlfriend split. Me and you it wasn't like we talked because you split. It was
no. We just obviously from all the stuff that we've done together, you could kind of tell we would just click. And then we started talking over Christmas when you went to Vegas. And then come January, we started sort of seeing each other, and then we made it official then.
Believe it or not, the first time we had a individual date was actually watching the last 3 episodes of Eccleston's series in your flat at uni, wasn't it?
It was indeed. So
things come full circle a little bit.
And then we lived together in our 3rd year, and we've been together ever since.
Yeah, 9 years gross. We were together on.
And we're getting
January.
married this year.
We are.
That's horrid, honestly.
I know, grim.
Katie Delith asks, on a scale of 1 to 10, what is your favourite colour of the alphabet? Go on, Ames, you got this. What's your favourite colour of the alphabet?
On a scale of 1 to 10. But surely, what? I'm so confused. Please don't break me like
Katie,
this.
Thank you for that.
My favourite colour of the alphabet is 18.
Well done. Well done. Kia asks, having studied creative writing and drama at uni, I truly appreciate your insights into storytelling. If you could write, direct, act in any non-Who production or franchise, what would it be and why?
That's
you know what? I know this straight away. I've always, as much as it's a bit of a hot topic at the moment because it's the wizarding world, but I would genuinely love to be able to do, like, show run a series, like a limited series, about the about the auras of Azkaban, like basically like a wizarding world police procedural, like NCIS but wizards, like really just called Azkaban. Like I'd do that. I want to do that. I'd leave like modern day Britain, like very sort of gritty, kind of like a bit like a CW kind of show, but with less crap CGI and writing. But something like that, probably. Something different in the Potterverse would be quite cool.
Yeah. Mine would probably be something similar to things like Perks of Being a Wallflower or your typical kind of teen movies and stuff like that, because I'm a real sucker for just like good
You're
old
watching some
young
schlock
adult
on Netflix, aren't
teen
you?
stuff. Like, I watch kind of rubbish and things like that. So mine would probably be, I'd probably write, though, because I'm not an actor. I'm not really a good director either, so it would be probably a writing thing for me. Lawrence Gill
Yep.
asks, how much / often do you watch classic Doctor Who, and what is your favourite classic Who story?
I feel like, Lawrence, that you should know this for me. It's Remembrance of the Daleks from 1988. And honestly, classic Who is the part of me that makes me a fake Doctor Who fan, because I haven't watched tons of classic Who. I've watched good amounts of it, I'll be honest, predominantly Dalek stories. But going back and watching classic Who, I've almost never had the urge to do it. As bad as that might sound to some people, like, I know that some people like live and breathe Doctor Who, and as much as I love the show to bits, I am not that kind of person. Like, the people whose entire like Twitter personas is just Doctor Who, it's like, I think it's exhausting. So I don't have that same vibe. I'm not watching the show constantly, and to be honest, I can't watch the show of New Who just randomly because we're doing EK. So, but that kind of paces it better. I will say though, I've made it my mission this year to pick up the last couple of Dalek stories that are available on DVD from the classic era to have.
Yeah.
Like, literally this week I got Day of the Daleks and Death to the Daleks from the John Pertwee era. So I think I've only got the Daleks, the original Dalek story, The Chase, and Planet of the Daleks left to get. But all three of those come in box sets of the original, like, you know, the grey box art classic DVDs. So I'm going to buy like basically like 6 or 7 whole DVDs to get 3. And it's like, okay, whatever. But yeah, classic Who was not, I don't go back and watch it all that frequently. I've been making you watch basically from Genesis onwards to get
I can't really answer
to get
this
Genesis
question
in, and now you've watched that, and then Destiny is like, okay. But then we've got Resurrection next, which is very good, and we're getting into the depths of the Dalek Civil War. So yeah, classic Who is not something that I'm going through. Like, I don't have the urge to watch it all. I don't pay for BritBox, so while it is easily accessible to me in some capacity, yeah, I just haven't had the real want to go back and like take in more of Doctor Who. Like, I know the new era very well, but classic Who, not so much. So, Hannah Schilling asks, in Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, what task would you assign yourselves to be the best at out of flying on a broom to find the right key, giant wizard's chess, or getting past Fluffy?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Well, there's 2 of us, so we're going to fail at one of them.
I mean, mine is not going to be chess at all because I suck at forward thinking. I would probably go with flying on a broom for me, mainly because I love dogs, but I am awful at playing music. So it would have to be flying on a broom.
In which case, then
really.
I'll have to take I'm going to play the Tetris theme on piano to put Fluffy to sleep, and then I'll do some chess, I suppose. I mean, the chess mini games on the PS1 Harry Potter game. Oh my god, I hated them so much to get to the boss fight with Voldemort. Oh my goodness me.
Oh god. Jessica says, question for you both. If you could have lunch with any famous person, dead or alive, and talk to them about anything, who would it be and why?
John Wardley.
I knew you were going to say that.
In case you don't know, John Wardley is like the godfather of British theme parks. Like, he is the man who arguably made Alton Towers what it is today, and his work is incredible. He is still going. He's in his 70s, and they won't just let him retire. He apparently retired many years ago, but he just keeps going. So he's the man who designed Oblivion, Air, Nemesis. He consulted on things like 13. I think he consulted on Wicker Man, and he's also consulting on, obviously, the fact that Nemesis is being retracked at the moment at Alton Towers, and also whatever's next, which hasn't been confirmed as Secret Weapon 9 yet, but more than likely will be. Apparently it's an indoor coaster. at Alton Towers being built at the moment. So yeah, he's a big engineering guy. Interestingly, his background actually came from theatre, like stage management and stuff like that, and then he got into he's done special effects for the Bond films back in the day, and then obviously he then went into theme parks. So I feel like he and I could chat bollocks for Britain. So John Wardley.
You probably could. This is quite a toughie because I'm sat here like, do I just go for the people that I simp over?
I was going to say,
you're going to be genuinely interesting.
Eat Darren Criss for lunch.
Well, do you know, I thought about it, but legitimately, I think my answer might be leaning more towards Miley Cyrus, which is a bit left field, but I absolutely loved her on Hannah Montana as a kid.
Yeah.
I even got her autobiography that she wrote when she was, she must have been like coming up to her late teens, early 20s when she wrote it. And I read that thing to death. So I'd probably sit down with Miley Cyrus and kind of be like, yo, how's your life? Like, how have things evolved? Like, how was it when you first started in the industry compared to now? Like, what about Liam? Like, how's stuff with that? Like, just I'd be really interested to dive into her life from a really personal perspective and just find out who she is as a person, because I have massive amounts of respect for her. So I think she'd be really interesting.
Fair enough. So Marina asks, what's both your favourite video game movies and why? I think you know mine. I mean, if Marina,
if this is Marina we know Marina. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Hi, Marina.
Hello. And also, if you could pick a video game that hasn't been yet adapted to the big screen, what would you choose? Favourite video game movie?
Dog's Life.
I'll message Mr. Braben and Mr. Watts tomorrow, because they are literally my bosses at Frontier. And I'll be like, hey, do you want to... I mean, the game was published by Sony, so they've got the rights. So Sony have their own film studio, so I suppose we should make A Dog's Life the movie. I'll pitch that to Johnny tomorrow. Dog's Life. I try to think about favorite movie. I mean, I would probably agree with Marina that the Sonic movies are excellent. They've got no right to be as good as they are, even though they're still very tongue in cheek. But it just works. Detective Pikachu is brilliant.
Oh, I like that one.
And I did quite enjoy the first Resident Evil. I've not watched any of the other ones, but the first Resident Evil film is so schlocky and camp and crap. I love it. As for what would like to see, Amy says A Dog's Life. J.J. Abrams, and apparently this is still on the cards, apparently J.J. Abrams has the license to make a Portal movie. Oh. And there was a document released only a couple of weeks ago saying, like, here's all the projects that I think it's Sony, I don't know exactly, but they've got in the works, and at the bottom it's like unknown dates, blah, 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 Portal. So it's still on the cards, like a Portal movie or a Half-Life movie. Fallout's getting a TV series on Amazon, which I hope to God is good, because I love Fallout.
And The Last of Us has obviously got series.
Their series, which I'm sure I'll watch eventually. I'm not that fussed about watching it, but I'm glad it's doing well. And there's all the outlets saying, breaking the curse of video game adaptations. It's like, have you seen the Castlevania thing, the League of Legends anime? Apparently it's fantastic. Cyberpunk Edge Runners is apparently really good. So it's like, okay, that's a bit of a clickbait title, but okay. But yeah, Fallout, Half-Life, Portal. There's a lot of stuff to look forward to. I'll say that much for video game adaptations. It's going to be good.
Yeah. Dr. Whovian. I almost read that as Drahovian. I was like, that's not right. Dr. Whovian asks, what keeps you going in life?
Pardon the soppiness, but Amy.
Oh.
Genuinely, the reason she's still here, the reason we're getting married, is genuinely because I don't think I would be where I am today, getting the jobs I've had, having the confidence to do what I do, if it wasn't for Amy being there for me. All right,
stop it,
calm it down. Genuinely, and that's in just having that personal motivation to just keep going forwards. I'm someone that wants to keep sort of moving up. I don't want to sort of stagnate where I am. Which is honestly one of the reasons I left WhoCulture in the end. But where I am now, I'm happy. I know that there's good progression, so that is a big thing for me for knowing that I can continue to move up where I am. But also having Amy with me genuinely keeps me going way more than I think.
So
way
cute.
more than I think you realise, Miss Parsons.
Oh, thank
What about you? And why is it
Um,
me?
Is it? Well, I was going to say, is it awful now if I don't say you?
No.
My dog.
No, that's
No.
fair enough.
I mean, obviously, you are incredibly important to my life. But just as a general, for me, it is my entire family and friends network.
Yeah.
Including you, obviously. But, like...
Which one am I, family or friend?
Both.
Yay.
If, like, for me personally, if I didn't have my mum, my dad, and my sister, things would be a hell of a lot different for me. My mum is literally my best friend on this entire planet. And my dad is probably one of the loveliest people you'll ever meet. He loves us to death. My sister, although when we were younger,
That's just how it is when you're young. Yeah.
We get on so well now and we're really close. And also my dogs, they are incredible. Shout out to Joey and Fish. Whoop, whoop. But yes, my dog is called Fish. I don't think I would be in the same position I would be in without their support, without your support, because I think about them all the time and I just think, like, am I doing what is best for me, and will they be proud of me? And the answer is always yes. I was messaging my mum the other day for some advice on job stuff, and she was like, whatever you do, I will always be proud of you no matter what. And I was just like, you're gonna make me cry. So yeah, for me it's family, friends, just generally keeping everyone as a whole.
Nice.
Is really
So
nice.
I'm going to butcher this as well. Yoin, something on Spotify. I hope I haven't completely butchered that.
Yeah, very sorry about that.
Asks, what is the best film sequel and why is it Paddington 2?
I love Paddington 2.
I haven't seen either of them, and I disagree. The best film sequel is Spider-Man 2.
But is it as good as Paddington 2?
Okay. Is it as good as Spy Kids 2, The Island of Lost Dreams?
Spy Kids 3 was better.
I wouldn't go that far.
But is it as good as Shrek 2, though?
Shrek 2 is one of the best sequels of all time. I'm a big fan of Back to the Future 2. Not everyone is, but I love Back to the Future 2. There was another one. Oh, Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed.
I mean, the first one with Scooby-Doo was better, let's be honest.
Yeah, probably, but I love those films so much.
I do love Paddington 2, though. Me and my mum love sitting down and watching Paddington 2 together, so I get it.
So we're on to Twitter questions now. We've done the Spotify
are.
questions, so thank you, Spotify listeners. Twitter.
Misha Peer asks you specifically, Rich.
Hello.
Your Twitter handle is a reference to tap dance. Do tell us more.
Well, so yeah, when I was young, I did dance classes because my mum was a dance and drama teacher, and I went to the same dance school that my mum went to, and I started when I was 3 because that's usually the age you can start dance classes, 2 even. I think it must have been 3. And I obviously either didn't say no because I enjoyed it or was scared of my mother and didn't say no to save my bacon. And I continued to do dance classes for 15 years until I was 18. So I sort of majored. Technically, my highest qualification in dance is in ballet, actually. But tap and contemporary stuff was always my strongest genre. And Pick Up Change Toe is a selection of tap steps. That's genuinely what that username came from. And while I do not dance anymore, I don't perform anymore, and I miss it very much, I am a trained dancer. Fun fact. I did ballet, and no, I didn't wear a tutu. Men don't wear tutus. Don't be stupid. Misha asks again. Misha's got a couple of questions. Amy, I don't remember if it's been discussed, but since you're such a David Tennant simp, have you watched Good Omens, and what are your thoughts?
This is a very quick answer. No.
I've watched like one episode of Good Omens, and I was like, I'm not invested in this, so I haven't watched it.
It's
I've heard
not
it's
really
good,
the sort of thing that appeals to me. I have watched David Tennant in many other things, but unfortunately, I've not watched Good Omens, I'm afraid. So apologies, I can't really answer that.
Misha's last question is, what is your favourite holiday?
I mean...
I said we basically answered this. Well, you basically answered this one.
Yeah, Halloween, it's just... incredible. I love the vibes, the autumn vibes. I just let me drown in it, please. I love it. What's your favourite holiday, Rich?
Probably Christmas.
Yeah.
I love the vibes of Christmas and decorating the house and all the Christmas music and getting a chance to be with all like family and seeing people. I love it. And giving people gifts is nice. I'm terrible at buying people gifts, but I love giving people gifts. So Zappa fan asks Amy specifically, can Amy tell us more information about the charity she did her haircut for? Is there any way we can donate or do similar for the charity? And what is the charity? I believe it was Wigs for Ill Children.
Yes, so the charity that I did my haircut for is called the Little Princess Trust. I believe they're based in the UK, and it is the primary charity to donate hair for kids with cancer or alopecia or any kind of disease that causes kids to lose their hair. So when I cut my hair was 31 inches long. For anybody that can't really reference that, it was from here down to literally I could sit on it. And I got it cut to about here when I had it cut off, and I cut
Where
off
is
17
here for the
inches
people
of it.
listening and not watching?
Oh, yeah. So for the people not watching, here is my collarbone. So I got it cut from basically my butt cheeks to my collarbone, which was about 17 inches of hair, which I believe the minimum donation of hair you can make to this charity is 7 inches. So if you have 7 inches of hair that you don't think you need, make sure it's in good condition and it's not too much of a funky colour. If it's bleached, it's fine. It's just got to be in good condition because it's a natural colour, so that's fine. And then you can donate it. Just go to your hairdresser, just say, I'm doing a Little Princess Trust. You can sign up online. It took me like 5 minutes. They send you a form, you fill the form in, and then you send your hair off in a like sealed envelope. They sent me a little badge, which you can just about see it on my screen there, which says the Little Princess Trust.
How much did you raise for it in the end?
So in the end, I think it was £620.
That's incredible.
And the amount it costs to make one wig for somebody suffering is $550. So that was my goal, which the reason I made so much money on it, I think, was because I'd had long hair ever since I was a little kid, like literally since I started growing my hair. So for me, it was a big thing to have it all cut off, and no one had ever seen me with short hair. So, yeah, if you want to donate, just search for the Little Princess Trust online. You can probably donate directly to them. Alternatively, if anybody follows me on Instagram, I do have a highlight in my story of my haircut for the Little Princess Trust, so you can probably see a bit more info on there.
Nice. Zappa fan actually has a couple of questions, it seems.
Yeah, so his next one is it necessary to hear the Big Finish items, or is it not necessary?
No, it's not. I really appreciate what Big Finish do. Like, they give, obviously, I think there's also an extent that they give actors work, because, you know, I hate to say it, but you don't really see many of the old Doctor Who actors doing much like bigger stuff. They obviously do get to do dribs and drabs, but I mean, the biggest thing I can think of is like Sylvester McCoy being in the Hobbit films. That's about it. But like they continue to give those actors work for stuff that they love to do. They continue stories and relationships. They explore new ideas. People always cite Colin Baker's Doctor, who was not all that liked during his tenure as the Doctor in the 80s, but they have a lot more respect for the character now because of the Big Finish almost doing him more justice. Hence why so many people have been saying, get Jodie Whittaker on Big Finish. Hopefully they can do her justice. Yeah. As whether it's overtly necessary, again, no. There are elements of storylines and stuff that can get brought into the show, but I don't think you're overtly missing out if you're not listening to Big Finish. I'll be honest, I barely listen to Big Finish. I know that Eccleston is back. I've listened to a couple of parts, but I haven't I've never been one for audio dramas, really. So I really should listen to the Eccleston stuff because he's my boy, but yeah, I just haven't. So don't feel like you're missing out if you're not listening to Big Finish. Also, it is expensive. They're not cheap. And they're so constant. They just keep on going, and it's amazing they still do all this stuff. But yeah, it's not cheap to keep on top of. But don't feel left out. There are some really good things you can listen to. And there is a question about some Big Finish stuff in a bit. But don't feel you're missing out if you're not listening to Big Finish. No. And Zappa fan's final question is, are you having a Doctor Who themed wedding?
The answer to that one, Zebfan, is definitely
Hell
not.
no. We do have a table called Scaro,
Yeah.
but that's it.
But there was a thing in my family. They were like, "You're not having a Harry Potter themed wedding," and I was like, "God no."
Our wedding is not overtly themed. It's autumnal. It's kind of minimal, and then there are elements like table names, and we've got like a monogram that I designed for our wedding that actually has got a TARDIS and a lightning bolt on it for Doctor Who and Harry Potter. But otherwise, that's about it. It's a very tasteful inclusion of pop culture stuff, apart from the time machine DeLorean that will be parked outside the venue on the day. That's kind of as sort of explicitly look at this dumb stuff that we've really gone with this wedding.
Yeah. Docky Who.
Oh God. Docky Who.
Docky Who asks, have you seen BoJack Horseman? If so, what was your opinion on it? No.
Sorry, Docky Who. Not watched it.
John simply says, how are you guys?
Yeah, doing all right.
I feel like, is that John that's not John, you're John?
No, that's somebody else.
Oh, I was going to say.
No, we said this at the top of the podcast, to be honest. We're doing well. We've avoided the January blues, just getting on with the grind. Obviously, I'm now sort of, I don't want to say balls deep in the new job, but I just said it, balls deep in the new job. So, getting on with things.
Yeah, I'm doing okay. I am a couple of weeks away from starting a new job. I feel like I literally say that on every single episode of the podcast.
But you're moving. You're moving within the NHS.
Within the
you're
NHS.
Just...
I'm going up a band, so I'll be going from a band 2 to a band 3. So yeah, things are good. I'm glad. I've been in there a year now. And the progression is something that I'm like Rich. I'm kind of motivated for progression and being the best I can possibly be in my working life. So for me, it's kind of the next step, really. So yeah, we're doing okay. We're in the midst of wedding planning and everything's busy, but everything's good.
Yeah,
good busy.
Jedi Spartan 38 asks, have either of you played any of the Mass Effect games? No,
I haven't.
I've got the Legendary Edition on PlayStation Plus, but I am yet to play it, and I don't know. I've never had the real urge to play Mass Effect, so maybe I'll give it a go one day. But I have got a hell of a lot of stuff to play, and Mass Effect is unfortunately quite low down on that list. But Jedi Spartan's other question is: have you listened to any of the early Big Finish since the first 50 are on Spotify?
No, unfortunately not.
I have actually. There was one Big Finish story I got from a freebie in the Doctor Who magazine forever ago. It might have been one of the original 50. I don't know, but it was a Sylvester McCoy with Sophie Aldrin as Ace story. I think it's called Was it the Veiled Leopard? Something like that. But I think the only one that I've gone back and listened to on Spotify is Jubilee, which is what Dalek in 2005 was based on, and it's a Sixth Doctor story, funnily enough, and it's quite weird the way that it went. Like Dalek, the reason I love it so much is because of how grounded it is. Jubilee's just a bit strange. It kind of has the same sort of initial concept of here's a Dalek and that's it. But it's really weird, Jubilee. But it's I can see where this came from and how it definitely evolved into what was arguably a better story in Dalek. But honestly, Jubilee's about it. I've heard there's some really good, really, really good Fifth Doctor Cybermen stories. I can't think of what it's called. I wanted to say Silver Eyes, but I think Silver Eyes is the title of a Five Nights at Freddy's novel, so it's not that.
I don't know.
I know there's a Fifth Doctor Cybermen Big Finish drama that apparently people rave about, but yeah I've not really listened to, as said, a huge amount of Big Finish. So,
Hey Jay asks, if it was announced tomorrow that a Hollywood studio were planning a Planet Coaster movie, who would you see cast in it, and do you think it could even work?
Ooh, casting, not a clue. I don't watch enough stuff to really say, hey, this person should be great. It's like when they announced Millie Gibson as the new companion, and even Ncuti Gatwa. I hadn't watched Sex Education, so I had no idea who he was. And it's like when on Children in Need, when Millie Gibson walked out the TARDIS, it was like, I don't know who that is. I do not know. So for casting, I wouldn't know. The idea of a Planet Coaster or a what?
Sorry, there's a guy I need to Google quickly. Keep talking.
Okay. There's as for the concept of a Planet Coaster movie, or like even a Roller Coaster Tycoon movie, technically you could do it. It would be a bit of a, I've not watched it, but I assume like We Bought a Zoo. That's just like it's like a business opportunity, and a bit like The Founder, which is a Michael Keaton playing Ray Kroc, the McDonald's founder. Fantastic film. Like, I feel like you could do something along those lines. So it's less of a whimsical thing and more of like a sort of not a gritty businessy thing, but like a positive, uplifting. We're going to open a theme park kind of thing like that. I'd argue you could get away with something like that. Who have you Googled, Amy?
So let me explain why I Googled this person first.
Right.
There's in my brain for a Planet Coaster movie, I was thinking of like the park owner being this kind of like sprightly male, just businessman who is really friendly. And when I was a kid, I was obsessed with the movie Thomas and the Magic Railway, and Alec Baldwin apparently played the conductor in the film, and he is exactly the epitome of the character that I would picture for a Planet Coaster movie. So if any of you have ever seen Thomas and the Magic Railway with Alec Baldwin as the conductor, Alec Baldwin's character in that film is who I would cast.
I was going to say, I'm assuming that's Thomas
movie.
the Tank Engine.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, oh,
okay.
yeah.
That I've not I've not heard of that before. Oh man.
Thomas and the Magic Railroad, and my mum will tell you I watched it on repeat.
Why am I not surprised? Amy likes trains. Jay's other question is: are there any other types of videos or podcasts you want to make in the future?
I feel like that's probably more of a you question.
I mean, I'm again similar to the podcast. I'm going to really try and do YouTube a bit more properly this year, even if it's like monthly. But that's going to stick to Doctor Who. There are definitely ideas. I started writing stuff for a theme park channel. It's basically like a Defunct Land, Yesterworld, Expedition Theme Park style stuff, but with my sort of my writing, my kind of vibe, my kind of edit and stuff like that. But it's another lot of work. Like, I think my main issue last year was just trying to do so much stuff. Like at the start of the year, like trying to stream, doing my full-time job, doing Escaping Kasterborous, making Doctor Who YouTube videos, be they reviews or just Doctor Who videos for the interim, writing for a board game blog. You know, there was a lot of stuff I was trying to do, and also trying to do this coaster project. And it was like, I need to stop. I need to properly... So I binned off Twitch, which was a very good decision in my eyes. Doctor Who YouTube fell to the wayside a lot. Sorry, but that's the way it goes. Obviously, EK did as well to some extent. Not down to just not wanting to do it, as we've explained. But yeah, I think if I'm going to make more of a conceited effort to do more writing. Now that I got my Chibnall era review done and I edited it way quicker than I expected, and I have the means of editing stuff like in the format that I did the Chibnall one, and it didn't get dicked on by the BBC for copyright. Thank you, YouTube. Like that, I think that opens up big doors for me in terms of actually making YouTube content, because honestly, setting up my camera downstairs, setting up lighting, I'm now short of light because it broke. It's like all of that stuff, just like, I can't be bothered to do that. And while I know people just use a camera at their desk, and I'd love to do that, that's the plan for the future, I think. I don't have the nice enough... As you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, my office space isn't very picturesque for studio work. So I wouldn't be interested in shooting in here. So, yeah, there's stuff I'd like to do. Podcasts, probably not. We should just focus on EK. But videos, yeah, so there'd be more Doctor Who stuff and maybe some coaster stuff. Whether it goes on a different channel or stays on this channel, it should technically go on a different channel, but I also don't see the point. I'd rather be like, here's something different. But trying to market myself or brand the channel around just Doctor Who stuff and then some random other bits, it's kind of odd. So, and I'd almost feel like I'd have to try and balance it 50-50, and also Doctor Who and theme parks. They're two very different things to try and mash together in one channel. So that was probably a very wordy answer for things.
That's fine. Jack at Screen Planet asks, what are your go-to movie genres? Are there any specific film genres that you love, e.g. horror, action, fantasy, etc.? And then says, keep up the great work.
Thank you, Jack. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
I mean, honestly, genres, no. I'm not the biggest like film guy, really. I'll go and see the MCU stuff. I am so burnt out on the MCU. I'm really behind. I think the last thing we watched would have been Ms. Marvel.
Yeah.
I think Ms. Marvel's the last thing we watched. So yeah, we're really behind on films. Haven't seen Thor, Love and Thunder yet. Haven't seen She-Hulk. Haven't seen Black Panther.
No.
Wakanda Forever. So yeah, very behind on things like that. Really, films wise, I suppose the only ones I'm like, oh, I need to watch this is like Edgar Wright films, and yet I still haven't watched Last Night in Soho. So I guess we're just not very.
We don't really have the time to sit down and watch a film.
Yeah, and we're not that interested in film. Like when I was at uni and doing media production, you kind of had to be, and I kind of tried to convince myself that I really cared about watching interesting films. In reality, I don't. So yeah, not the biggest film people in the grand scheme of things. We'll go and see bits and pieces that we want to see, but yeah, we've never been. We want to just watch films all the time and have a letterbox account and review stuff. Just not really. I think, but arguably apart from probably Disney films.
Yeah. For me, my favourite film genre is like coming of age films. Like
exactly,
young
teen
adult
schlock.
Yeah, teen schlock. But I just think they're a good vibe. Like I enjoy that sort of very indie kind of vibe, like look at the world. Obviously Perks of Being a Wallflower is, like I said, my favourite film in the entire world, so stuff with that kind of vibe is just my go-to, really.
Yeah. Claire, our final question from Twitter, asks, don't think you've talked about it on the podcast, so what music do you guys like? Favourite bands, artists, etc.?
I mean, it's such a weird, eclectic mix. I was actually talking about this to my colleagues at work the other day, and I said my music taste is a big hodgepodge, and none of them knew what hodgepodge meant. So shout out to my work colleagues, I guess. But yeah, it's a big mix is what I then said eclectic mix, and they were like, nah, you've lost us. I like a bit of pop. I like musicals. I like a bit of things like You Me at 6 and My Chemical Romance and Panic at the Disco. I also really like Disney music. I like Miley Cyrus. I love Taylor Swift. But my favourite band, if ever, is a band called A Great Big World. Not many people have heard of them.
You've
so
heard
shout
Say
out to
Something,
you
though.
if you have.
Everyone's heard Say Something.
Their song that everyone knows, which everybody thinks they're like a one-hit wonder with Say Something, but actually they're really not. They've got 3 albums. Is with Christina Aguilera.
Which is the ultimately inferior version to the one of Just Ian.
Yeah, I'm not going to sing it for you because I'm terrible at singing.
Again, you all know it. You all know it.
You'll know it. But they are my favourite band. And if... excuse me. For those of you watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see this. I don't know if it'll be backwards or not on my camera, but
it's not. You're the right way round.
So here you will see I have a tattoo that says "Be not afraid of who you really are," and it's got a little rocket at the end of it, and that is actually written, like that handwriting is from Ian, I believe.
I think it was Ian, yeah.
There's Ian and Chad in the band. Who are the primary singers, and then you've got a few other members of the band who play the music. This was Ian's handwriting. He wrote it out for me after I had a live chat with them on Instagram on my 23rd birthday. They wrote this for me, they sent it to me on Twitter, and I got it tattooed, and it's from one of their songs called This Is the New Year. So if anybody's watched Glee, you'll have seen them perform it on Glee. And yeah, they are a fantastic band. I highly recommend you give them a listen to if you like really kind of upbeat, light-hearted pop music, but then they also have some songs that are a bit more hard-hitting, a bit more emotional, and they're just a really good all-rounded band.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Your answer, Richard?
I like Busted. I was a big Busted fan as a kid, and subsequently, as we all were, a McFly fan as well. And with McFly and Busted both back on the scene, both making cracking albums. The McBusted album is a bit rubbish, but Busted's 3rd album is their best album, hands down. Halfway There is fantastic. Young Dumb Thrills by McFly is a brilliant album. So
good.
Having those two, they were like the 2 bands that were like the big bands I loved when I was a kid. So I still love them now because their music's still good. Caravan Palace is another band I've loved for years. incredible live, and their music just keeps getting better. They keep developing their own sound, and it just keeps going. And then I just throw in like Ghost as well, that I got into after being a WhoCulture, because Ghost stuff is just big theatrical melodic metal, and I can't stand screamo, but like metal that actually has some melody and not some just weird throat noises to it, I'm game for it. So even Avenged Sevenfold and Ghost and stuff like that, I'm here for as well. So similar to Amy, along with like jazz and musicals and stuff, it is an eclectic mix. So we're quite open with our music, to be honest. We'll basically take anything but screamo and like mumble rapping and crap like that. Oh, who is it?
Pretty much.
There's a band called Slaves that people love. My brother likes Slaves. I think they sound like complete dog. I think they sound awful. I'm like, why is this is music? This is terrible. And also,
I also can't stand people like Drake or Kanye West, anybody like that. No, not my thing.
But also, I go full like boomer with like Radio 1 if we're in the car and Amy puts on Radio 1. I'm like, what on
Whereas
earth
I
is
love
this?
Radio 1.
Like, it's like the chorus is just somebody going mur, 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 over and over again. And it's like written by 14 people, and it's like the epitome of corporate pop. And I'm like, this stuff absolutely sucks.
It's like the one thing we disagree on.
Yeah, I mean, there's actually a question about this, about stuff we disagree on. I cannot stand like corporate pop. There are some artists out there that do some really good stuff who are like top of the food chain pop. You've got people like Lewis Capaldi. Yeah, Lewis Capaldi. I'd argue like in terms of talent, Ariana Grande, she's so talented. And then they just keep Ed Sheeran and people like that. There are people who can kind of get past that. Even Dua Lipa's got some slapping songs. But then you find a lot of artists that just make crap that's there to be catchy, and that's about it. And I'm like, this stuff does not appeal to me in the slightest. Yes, it's catchy. I can't stand Meghan Trainor as a person. I think she's a complete bitch. But her songs are so catchy, and it's like, and the fact that she brought back doo-wop, I'm like, I love doo-wop. Why do you have to be such an arsehole, and why did you marry Junie Cortez? What a poor bloke. But yeah, so there's like Radio 1, I'm like, this is crap. What on earth is this? Why would you like this? And I'm there like, Radio 2, give me Radio 2. Although they're losing Popmaster, which is a shame. But anyway.
I know.
So yeah, music is a pretty eclectic mix, but yeah, just not like, if Amy's like, oh, this is number 1, I'm like, I have no idea what that is. I've only, to put things into perspective, I have heard one Lad Baby song, and it was fecking awful.
Awful. Lewis Capaldi is literally like after A Great Big World, he's probably my second favourite.
That's fair enough. His music's great, and he's so funny. He's such a sound guy.
I love him. He's just incredible.
Just want to crack open a bottle of Bucky with Lewis Capaldi.
Yeah. Off the back of that question, we're now onto the YouTube questions. Dalek_4252 asks, "Do you like the Beatles?"
Yes. And yeah, you don't really know. The fun, we used to go to Nottingham every Christmas, because there's arguably the biggest tribute act to the Beatles are called the Bootleg Beatles. And my like he's like uncle, he's not actually my uncle, but refer to him as uncle, like very, very close family friends. He's a huge Beatles fan. So we would always go to Nottingham to go with them to the concert hall in Nottingham and go and see the Bootleg Beatles every year, and they are incredible. So I got into sort of listening to the Beatles through seeing the Bootleg Beatles so many times, and while they're never usually my first like go-to, I'm going to put on Abbey Road or Sgt. Pepper's or something like that. I do still very much like the Beatles music. Like, we do have some Beatles songs on our wedding playlist, mainly just like
to help out the oldie crowd.
8 days
basically.
a week, Twist and Shout, I Saw Her Standing There, stuff like that. Back in the USSR, absolutely slaps. And Beatles Rock Band, I got a lot of game time from me. So yeah, I like the Beatles. Amy, yeah, you're not really your thing. You were brought up on Quo and Elton John.
Yes.
Dalek4252 also asks, what are your favourite animals?
Well, I feel like we've kind of covered this one. We love dogs and cats. I've literally lived my entire life with both of those in my household. I also had a hamster when I was younger, obviously, as most kids do. Rich, you had a cat, didn't
I had a
you?
cat. I've just had one cat, and she was so special she would never be replaced, hence why my parents never got another cat. She lived. She was my parents got her before I was even born. and she lived until she was 21. And fun fact for all you Kasterpodians who need to know every single detail about the two of us, the day that is our anniversary, the day that we put as our, because we didn't really have like an official start date, we just kind of went, yeah, this day, was actually the day that my cat got put down. So our original like getting together date is also the same day that I lost my cat of, I was 18 years old, of my cat of 18 years, who was 21 years old. I love her to pieces and I miss her all the time. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to when we get a house and we can have a cat. We decided we're going to get cats first.
Cats first, because they're easier to look after.
Eventually we'll get a dog, because I've never had a dog that's mine, but I've known people with dogs, obviously being with Amy for all these years. I know Amy's dogs very well, and I'm super game to get a dog, but it's going to be cats first for the both of us.
It will be. Timeless Child R_easy asks, why is Doctor Who special to you? And who is your favourite incarnation of the Time Lord?
Do not skip 9, friends.
Yeah.
Again, you should all know this by now. Eccleston is my boy. He is my favourite Doctor, because I don't think it's solely down to the fact that he was my first Doctor, because obviously I feel I have a big connection to David Tennant's Doctor as well. But Eccleston for me was always my favourite. I think his storyline was so well done. I think he performed the role so well. I think Tennant does the happy and the happy and the sort of angry side of the Doctor very well. I think Eccleston does it better, I would argue. Not to say that Tennant's stuff isn't genuine, but I feel like it's almost like the spectrum of angry to happy that Tennant has. Think of it being a lot wider with Eccleston. I feel like it goes further in one direction and further in the other. So I've always loved the fact that he's been able to nail that dynamic. I always picture him getting angry at the Dalek in Dalek compared to them laughing and joking in the cafe in Cardiff and Boomtown. Like, I always see those two things, and how Eccleston absolutely nailed the side of the Doctor that we didn't even know. Like, it's as if he just knew everything. All the specific details would not have been hashed out by that point, but he just did it so well in his time. So yeah, it's gonna be Eccleston for me. And Doctor Who is special to me, and I said this in my Chibnall era review. When Doctor Who first aired, we were both 9, as we've discussed on the podcast before, and obviously when I was 9, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a roller coaster engineer originally, because obviously I played a lot of Roller Coaster Tycoon, but my maths is not good enough to do engineering. And so watching Doctor Who as a kid got me using Windows Movie Maker, which I think basically anyone who's an editor nowadays started on Windows Movie Maker. I was making rubbish Doctor Who cartoons using Paint and Windows Movie Maker, and then my interest in video editing grew from watching Doctor Who and wanting to make my own Doctor Who episodes, quote unquote. So, and then obviously that spiraled into more video work, etc., etc. Went to uni, went to WhoCulture, went to Traction. Here I am now making trailers for Frontier games. So that's it. It all kind of stems back to my love of computers and my love of Doctor Who. So it's very special to me, because that was the catalyst that pointed me in the direction I am today professionally.
Yeah. For me, my favourite incarnation is probably Tennant. He and Matt Smith walk a fine line for me in terms of how well I think they portrayed their characters. But my favourite incarnation of the Time Lord in character terms is Tennant, because I feel like Matt Smith's Doctor got a bit too big for his britches. Doctor Who is... It's not as special to me as it is to Rich. I'm not going to pretend that I am as big of a Doctor Who fan as he is, because I could never match up to that. For me, my thing for that is Harry Potter.
We're kind of the perfect inverse of that Potter's very special to me, but not as much as Doctor Who, whereas Potter's more special to you compared to Doctor Who.
So it's still special to me because it was like, we grew up with it. It was my childhood, and you know, we have a lot of memories of me and my sister sitting down to watch it on Christmas Day. Thank God that's coming back.
Oh my God. We get to annoy my family with Doctor Who at Christmas. If it's on this year for Christmas, I get to annoy my family with it. Hell yeah, I've not done that in a long time.
But yeah, so it is special to me, but not as special as it is to Rich, I think.
Yeah. Harry Beddo 1522. There's a lot of these usernames. These are the new YouTube usernames because YouTube have finally gone and said let's normalize our username approach. A lot of these have got 4 numbers at the end because most people haven't realized they've got a username they can now edit. But yeah, so Harry Beddo 1522. What's your opinion? What's your guys' opinions on the Star Wars shows that have been coming out? Plus, what's your opinion of Star Wars in general? Tell me, Amy, what did you turn and say to me when we went to go and see The Force Awakens at uni? We got her right at the end. You know the thing that happens right at the end of Force Awakens? Amy turned to me and she said,
hey, Rich, who's that?
That's Luke Skywalker, Amy.
I've never seen Star Wars before.
Well, you've seen Force Awakens.
I've seen Force Awakens, but up to that point, I'd never seen Star Wars at all. I had briefly seen clips of it online. Like you've got, I think, recognized anyone.
You've got your knowledge of Star Wars is that of the public consciousness knowledge of Star Wars.
I don't. It doesn't appeal to me in the same way that things like Harry Potter and Doctor Who do, which is odd because you'd think they kind of all go hand in hand.
The same with like Lord of the Rings. People just assume you like Lord of the Rings as well, but I'm not a Lord of the Rings fan.
I've never watched that either. So, in terms of my opinion of Star Wars, haven't really got one.
We do have a big. I mean, I think we've mentioned this before. We have a big list of films we need to watch, and the Star Wars films are on that list. I have seen all of them. I haven't seen Solo, and honestly, I've not watched any of the TV series. I am not really I'm not so much a big enough Star Wars fan. I'm perfectly sure that if I sat down and I watched The Mandalorian, I watched Book of Boba Fett and whatever else, that I would enjoy it because I enjoy Star Wars, but I'm not the biggest Star Wars fan. I'm not going out of my way to watch these things. I went to go and watch like the sequel trilogy in the cinemas when they came out. I went to see Force Awakens. I went to go see Last Jedi at midnight, and I went to go and see Rise of Skywalker like the first day, like first showing in the morning, like 10 o'clock in the morning. Best time to go to the cinema, by the way, 10 o'clock in the morning. But I'm not really big enough for Star Wars fan, and I appreciate the series. There's a lot of great stuff in there, but I also like digging into the intricacies of how much the prequel trilogy were cocked up by George Lucas back in the early noughties, and how the weird approach that went into the sequel films. So we will get around to watching them, Amy. I've been more tempted more recently to go back and make you watch episode 4, and we'll watch them. We watch them in release order, so you watch the original trilogy, then the prequel trilogy, then the sequel trilogy.
That's fine.
But I will say Rogue One is the best Star Wars film. Rogue One is absolutely excellent. So
that's fine. What is that? I'm really sorry.
Marco Ludma?
Yeah, I thought it said Mark Loudman, but it does not. It says Marco Ludma. Mark Ludma, I think is how you pronounce it. I'm very sorry.
Again, mate probably doesn't know what his username is on YouTube. So.
And it asks any MCU projects you'd like to see in the future, whether they've been announced or not.
I mean, as we've touched on, we've been really burnt out on the MCU. We've got a lot to catch up on. We just haven't had the motivation, I guess, to do it. I think the way that Ms. Marvel ended was the first time it's felt like a bit of a. I guess I get like that wasn't so satisfying. Like Falcon and the Winter Soldier was fine, but it was like a consistent level of okay. You got Loki that was just like bangers every time. Hawkeye was again like okay all the way through. WandaVision was like bangers the whole time. Ms. Marvel kind of goes yep, and then just kind of drops. So rather than being like a consistent level of tone, of quality, it felt like the first time the MCU properly kind of led us in one direction, then tripped.
Fumbled the ball a little bit.
That's probably why we've fallen off it a bit. I've heard really good things about She-Hulk, which is great, but I've just not watched it yet. Same about Wakanda Forever, same about Thor, but we just haven't seen them. I feel like by the time we get round to when Loki season 2 comes out this year, we will really need to have watched everything up to that point to catch up, because I think that's the one thing I can think of that's going to get me back in is watching Loki. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, again. I
don't know. I saw the trailer for that.
I mean, all the stuff still looks good. We just haven't watched it yet.
And I love Paul Rudd.
Yeah, there's another simping for Amy. As for stuff that's coming, as for stuff that's not announced, again, don't know comics enough to really think about stuff I'd like to see. Getting Spider-Man No Way Home. No Way Home? Yeah, No Way Home was like the big one for me as a big Spider-Man fan from back in the day. But really, the stuff that's coming, Daredevil Reborn, because Daredevil is incredible, the Netflix show. It's really, really good. Daredevil and Jessica Jones, really. Iron Fist, I watched the first season. Not Iron Fist, Luke Cage. The first season was fine. Didn't watch the second one. Didn't bother with Iron Fist because I've heard it's absolutely terrible. I watched Defenders as well, and it's like, but Jessica Jones and Daredevil were brilliant. So the fact we're getting Daredevil back, the fact Kingpin was back in Hawkeye, that was awesome. Amy obviously won't know it as much with Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin, but he is so good. I really need to make you watch Daredevil because it's so good.
I know.
But yeah, I think we need to just catch up on MCU stuff, I guess.
Yeah.
I think that's really it. Richard Gurney, 1844, asks, what happens during your perfect day?
Oh, a long sleep at the moment.
Mostly
would be
sleeping.
Ideal. We didn't sleep very well last night. And a long lie-in would be fantastic to start off the perfect day. Probably some sort of buffet breakfast would be, because I love a good buffet for dinner.
Amy wants to wake up late in a Premier Inn and then go and have a Premier Inn breakfast, and then she's happy.
I mean, it's so, like, basically just kind of spending a nice day with my family would be, like, my perfect day. I really enjoy when our families get together because it's always a really good laugh. So I guess my perfect day would be wake up in a Premier Inn with both our families, have a fantastic buffet breakfast, maybe go out and spend the day doing something together, and then come home and have a really nice long sleep.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I probably agree with that, to be honest with you. Richard Gurney again has a second question. What's the most horrible death you can think of?
Oh, Jesus Christ.
It's a bit morbid all of a sudden. What's your perfect day? What about death?
What's your perfect death?
My webcam is so overexposed at the moment. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, mine's doing it. I don't know what mine's doing.
Can I close my curtains and make it stop? I have no control over my webcam exposure. No.
I'm not going to lie to you. I don't know if I really want to answer this question because death is a really sensitive topic for me. So
that's made it worse.
Am I okay to skip this
question?
I
think we'll skip that one. What if I turn this light off?
That's better.
That's a bit better, isn't it?
That'll do.
Me and my old streaming light still on my desk. So, Winfield Moslington. You got a long one here, Ames. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. With more and more big blockbuster films releasing either exclusively or in tandem with streaming platforms, do you think cinemas could benefit from doing cut-price screenings for big TV specials? Something like a Doctor Who special over here or a Game of Thrones level show. I'd hate to see the cinema die out, but it seems they're little let up in home release being a preference. Oh, sorry, there's little let up in home release being a preference. I read that wrong.
I mean, in the years running up to the pandemic, that did become very popular. We had, obviously, back in 2016, we had Day of the Doctor in cinemas. I think, like, the end of Game of Thrones was in cinemas. You'd see it all the time with these sorts of things. I would say, yeah, for cinemas itself, that would really help them because, obviously, they are struggling nowadays. I mean, Cineworld is in a bit of a pickle, I know. And just cinemas in general, to be honest, because of the expectation of just being able to get stuff at home nowadays, which, you know, I guess, fair enough. It's not the same experience for definite, but it definitely could be an option to go down. But then obviously there's a lot more hoops to jump through as to whether they can have it be simulcast like Doctor Who was back in... actually, was it? I know they did the 50th anniversary in cinemas as well, but they did other stuff in cinemas as well. Was it like they did Twice Upon a Time or something in cinemas too?
I don't
remember. Or a series premiere or something or other.
I'm not sure.
But like doing that is a logistical pain compared to films, I think. But it's definitely an option.
I think it could work quite well though. I mean, you get viral things like Wednesday that have gone absolutely through the roof at the moment. And when, you know, things like Squid Game came out, can you imagine if they'd aired the final episodes of those in cinemas? Like, they'd probably make bank. I mean, I love cinema, like going to the cinema to watch a film because the immersion is just so much better than what you get sitting at home. So I do think that cinemas could benefit from doing big TV specials, yeah, because I feel like they're being really let down by the use of... I mean, Disney's latest film, Strange World, was a prime example because there was little to no marketing for it. Came out in cinemas and literally
It
no
just
one went to
bombed.
see it.
Yeah.
And then no, but it didn't though, because now it's been released on Disney Plus. It's the number one film on Disney Plus, and so
right.
yeah, it's
Has the
literally just
reception
that they,
gotten better? Because I hadn't read good things about the film.
Yeah, no.
Oh,
The
fair
fact
enough.
that it's literally like the number one watched movie on Disney Plus at the moment because everybody really enjoyed it, and it's because there was no marketing for it.
Fair enough.
So it's one of those things that is very like, yeah, cinemas could really benefit from it, in my opinion.
Yeah. Shady Charizard 6571 asks, will you be doing more non-Doctor Who related videos on your channel?
I feel like this is
a me question. I mean, I've kind of covered this already, that maybe not. It depends. It's kind of like when I was a streamer and I was streaming Planet Coaster predominantly, and anytime you do anything that wasn't Planet Coaster, your viewership would just... In the same way that releasing an episode of Escaping Kasterborous on my YouTube channel normally gets people unsubscribing because they're not here for Escaping Kasterborous, they're here for more curated videos rather than just rambling bollocks. Mm-hmm. So maybe not. But Amy, I think the next one you should probably read to me.
Yeah, so Shady Charizard also asks you, Richard. I'm
Richard?
starting my own... Yeah, sorry, I called you Richard. That's very odd. I'm starting my own YouTube channel soon. Do you have any advice for me?
Oh boy, howdy I do. So with doing YouTube, I've obviously done... I've done YouTube for a company, WhoCulture, that had a big following already, so launching another channel behind the company, like... with the potential benefit of cross-posting onto the other channels, like when we launched WhoCulture in 2020, basically did a video for main channel, gaming channel, the Trek channel, to link into the WhoCulture channel to say, look, there's a new thing for Doctor Who, come and subscribe, etc., etc., etc. But also doing stuff when you're starting from scratch, so like traction at Motorsport Games, that was like nothing. We had to do that completely from scratch without... We admittedly had, time and money to do it, but in terms of genuine, like just getting bums on seats to watch the content, that was purely down to us. So doing it from scratch. Really, the main, and this is ironic coming from me, but genuinely it's consistency. That's the thing that will help you. Obviously, I don't know exactly what it is you're looking to do on YouTube. You haven't specified what that's going to be, but consistency really is key. It's kind of like the approach of Twitch of like, you're going to be discovered more when you're live. So the more you stream, the bigger chance you'll be found. It's like the more videos you put out, the better you can be. Don't try and burn yourself out. Don't think you're going to do 3 videos a week, because when you have YouTube channels, you say like, I don't know, Markiplier, Smosh, I would say PewDiePie, but he's basically retired from YouTube now. But like all these channels, they've got loads of people behind them. If it's just you, stick to a video a week. I'm only going to plan to do a video a month if I can. That isn't Escaping Kasterborous, because I don't have the time, and it's a one-man band. Hello, it's just me. So it's like being consistent is going to really help you. If you can stick to making content more consistently, then there's a bigger chance people are going to find you. Obviously, quality is good as well. Doesn't mean go and buy loads of crap to make your videos look amazing. It's like people who want to be a streamer, so they go and buy a DSLR, a cam link, a stream deck, some lights, or every Elgato product under the sun, gaming chair, LEDs. They do the whole thing because they expect that to be what it is. The beauty of YouTube is you can do almost whatever you want, and as long as the content is good, irrelevant of the quality, like the meat of the content is good, then you can do something good with it. There's a channel I watch about The Simpsons called The Real Jims. His stuff is like literally a slideshow of stills from The Simpsons. It's exported at 1080p, 720p even today, but his content is brilliant. Like it's really, really good, informative video essay kind of stuff. He does some episode rankings of classic Simpsons and stuff like that. He's gone all the way through classic Simpsons. Is it like season 15 or 16 now? He's doing retrospectives on. The content is really good, but it's not like, I don't know, MKBHD or Linus Tech Tips levels of production quality. You don't need that. As long as the meat of your content is good, then go for it. I mean, like the video I just released on the Shib and Lyra review that's done, the reception's been really positive and the views have been really good. In terms of the actual production, it's just clips from Who. That's really all it is. Like it was quick for me to get turned around, which makes me confident about doing projects in the future in that same style, because it's easy for me to produce. But there's nothing super flashy about it really. And that's what I think you can take into consideration. Like as long as the bulk of your content is good, don't worry about the frills, not yet. But as long as you can get your content across consistently, clearly, and you've got good quality, then good quality in what you're doing. I said, you don't go buy loads of random crap because you feel like you need it. But that's really what I would go with. And be honest, be genuine. You don't have to put on a big voice. You don't have to try and show off. Like, sometimes the more grounded the content is, the better it can be. So,
and coming from somebody like me who has never really edited a video a day in her life and has just started editing a hours long holiday video for our family to watch, get DaVinci Resolve because it's free and it's
don't pay for Adobe because it's expensive.
Don't pay for Adobe. Just download DaVinci Resolve for free online. It's fantastic editing software. It's got all the stuff you would need to start a YouTube channel in it, and it's really easy to learn through YouTube tutorials.
For free software, it's crazy good. It has no right to be as powerful as it is as a free bit of kit. I use Premiere and pay 45, 50 quid a month for it. God help me, honestly. But I mean, feel free to if you're Shady Charizard, if you want more help on YouTube, let us know what you're doing. Like, glad to help. I'm really interested to see what it is you're up to. Lost in Kate Winslet, so somebody who does know how to change their username on YouTube, asks, so one reason I enjoy the podcast is that you and Amy are a different generation. I can remember Pertwee, but Tom Baker is my doctor. While there are some differences, is it pleasing that we have a lot more in common about how we understand the show and characters? No, I framed that like a question.
It is pleasing.
It is pleasing that we have a lot more in common about how we understand the show and characters. With that in mind, I wonder how you feel about the warnings placed on shows and films with the 80s or earlier. The most recent warning was before I watched Trading Places, but I've also seen warnings for 70s Who. For example, Talons of Wen-Chan, pretty racist because Yellowface is dodgy, but there wasn't a warning for something that the dads and the bi-mums seen in it. Do you find these trigger warnings insulting or inconsistent?
No. I mean, I think without obviously trying to get too deep into this like whole kind of political side of things, I feel like it's appropriate to put trigger warnings on things from the older generation, mainly because times have changed. They're still changing. We've still got a long way to go. But things that might have been okay back in the day, like that episode, I've never seen it, so I can't comment on it particularly, but I can understand why it might offend some people. I get that, there are things that are inconsistent within the trigger warnings it gives, but I think it's probably better to add something than nothing and to just kind of act like because it happened once, it was a different time, it's okay. Because if we don't start to point out things that we know are wrong, then things are never going to change. So I can't comment on the inconsistencies because I don't really know what other trigger warnings are that they've used on old episodes of Classic Who. I don't find them particularly insulting because I haven't seen them, so I can't comment on them, but I would say I personally think it's a good thing to be starting to realise that what we maybe once did doesn't mean we need to keep doing it.
Yeah. I mean, I agree that I'm more in the mindset of like conservation, that because I like keep all my old games and stuff. I'm never selling them and stuff like that. I like the idea of still having them to hand. I like the ability to have like I don't buy loads of box sets, but there are like DVD box sets and stuff that I want, and the stuff that I have. So I have my own copy of things.
Collection.
Yeah, of stuff that should be kept. So things like Doctor Who, Tom and Jerry is what I was going to cite because, and I think I need to check. I think these DVDs do have that kind of warning at the start that says, by the way, there are things. I mean, bear in mind that the Tom and Jerry era, the Tom and Jerry stuff that I've got is from 1940 to 1967. It's like all the original shorts that were in the cinemas and stuff. And I loved Tom and Jerry growing up. Absolutely loved it, and I still do. And I think they, at the start of their DVDs, say there are some things in these shows, in these films, these shorts, that are, by today's standards, insensitive. And I would rather they had a warning and left it in than cut it out and pretend like it never happened. Because, A, we need to learn from these things. And, thankfully we have. There are some people who just, within society, who don't understand that, but in film and TV, not so much. That's great. But I don't agree with the idea of pretending it never happened and tearing it down, because at the end of the day, it's, again, stuff we need to learn from, and also it's it's something, culturally special. Like Tom and Jerry, for example. I don't want to see it be butchered by today's standards because there's a joke about Tom putting his head in a barrel that's got a bomb in it and he's basically blackface afterwards. Like, I get that it's culturally insensitive, but at the same time I don't want to have that episode edited because it's how I remember it as a kid. It doesn't mean I'm all for it and I'm going to do it myself. And after watching Tom and Jerry, I blacked up as a kid. Never did that. But I would rather that people at least acknowledge the fact that that's in there and you say, yeah, there's stuff in here you might find insensitive, but it was also 1945 or something like that. Like, it was the product of a different time. Doesn't mean it's okay by today's standard, but arguably when I'm watching that, it's 1945. That's when I'm watching it, basically, if that makes sense. Like, I'm watching The Twilight Zone in a minute from 1959, and while there's nothing in there that's overtly like sexist or racist or homophobic or anything like that, there is still like, there's a woman who's the secretary, the wife stays at home and cooks their dinner. That was how things were. That's just, it's a slice of life from that period. I think the idea of tearing that down and pretending like it never happened doesn't really help anyone. So I'd rather have a warning to say this is a bit insensitive than to like remove it entirely. It's like I obviously love The Simpsons, as I've said, and in all my watch throughs I realise it's been so many years since I've watched Stark Raving Dad because Disney Plus won't air it because it's got Michael Jackson in it. It's like, the Stark Raving Dad is genuinely one of the best episodes of The Simpsons ever made. So I think there's a time and a place. I'd rather that they put it up and said, by the way, this features Michael Jackson. And then go from there. So definitely the more meaty, harder hitting question. I mean, I'm intrigued for you guys in the comments of the video or on Twitter or on the Spotify questions, just like what would your stance be on that? Because I'm intrigued from a wider perspective, because I don't know whether I've outed myself as a closet racist or something, because I'd rather not have that stuff cut out and just be warned about it.
I don't think you're a closet racist.
No.
You're definitely not racist.
Who knows how the internet will take anything I say? I mean, welcome to the internet.
Well, having known you for a very long time can confirm you're neither racist nor in the closet. So,
sure.
Alberto Porigato 3764. That's my best go at that one, I'm afraid. Asks, Doctor Who is a series about changes. The reason it survived this long is its ability to change cast, plots and style. We're not big fans of the last era, but looking back at it, I'm not able to be mad at Chibnall because I feel like it was nice to see the show try something else. What do you think about it?
Now, I definitely get what you mean, Alberto Porigato, about the idea of trying something different. I think if it had stuck the landing, you'd almost buy it more. It's like the idea of the time war happening between the movie and the reboot like seemed weird at the time, but because it stuck the landing, it stuck to its guns and it went with it. It weaved its way to Doctor Who lore and people accepted it and it worked. And people look back at that era, as we've said, so very fondly leading up to the 50th anniversary. Like, what it was almost like the equivalent of us of the MCU starting in 2008 with Iron Man and leading up to Infinity War and Endgame. Like, that was 2005 through to 2013 for the Day of the Doctor. So we've had that amazing time, and there are things they've tried that haven't necessarily landed all that well. But the time of the Child stuff, the Chibnall thing, I get. Like, not being mad at Chibnall. Am I mad at him right now? No, he's done, he's gone. I'm happy to just move on from it, as I said in my video. But if it had stuck the landing with it, I don't think I'd have been so critical, because there would be nothing to be critical about. But because he didn't, there are things to be critical about.
We all know from listening to this podcast that my opinion of Chibnall is not good. Like Rich said, I'm kind of over it now, but I think that's because I know he's in the rearview mirror. At the time, I couldn't believe what he was doing. A lot of it, I felt very much like he was ruining it. I don't think he overtly destroyed it, as Rich will also agree. If you haven't seen his video on Did Chibnall Kill Who, go and watch his YouTube video on Did Chibnall Kill Who.
Oh, thanks.
You're welcome. Basically all of Rich's opinions I kind of share. So if you want to know what we both really think about it, go and watch that video. But I get, like Rich said, I get the idea of trying something new. But honestly, I think I'm glad he's done, and I can't wait for Russell T Davies. That's where I'm going to leave it.
That's fair enough. And Alberto actually follows that up with quite a relevant topic of the fact that you seem to agree on most of the topics you discuss about Doctor Who. Is there a series, TV, book, video game, whatever that gets you fighting because you have opposite opinions? Well, first one, music.
Well, yeah,
we discussed that. Like that's. I'm trying to think.
I wouldn't even say music is our disagreement. It's literally just Radio 1.
Pop chart music in the UK. I'm like, nah, this is crap. And Amy's
I'm
like,
trying to think if there's
vibing.
anything else we disagree on, though.
I'm trying to think of anything like. I mean, really, the only other thing that I can think of that is like, I don't want to be anywhere around, but I like your schlocky teen movies, and I'm never gonna begrudge you for the fact you enjoy them. That's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
I just don't want to watch them, and thankfully Amy understands that, so she doesn't sit me down and force me to watch another teen movie too, Beach Edition or something.
No, that's Teen Beach Movie on Disney.
Yeah,
Channel.
I knew it was something like that.
I've not watched it, but that's not the point. The only other thing that we kind of disagree on is the fact that very occasionally, and I mean very occasionally, I will watch some kind of reality TV, and you hate it. I used to, back in the day when me and my sister were quite young and we lived at home. I say quite young. I must have been around sort of early teen years. We used to watch Big Brother as a family because back in that era, it was at its prime on Channel 4. It was incredible.
I've never clicked with shows like that. Big Brother, I'm a Celebrity.
Yeah.
None of that. Like things that like I know that you don't watch Love Island, but Jesus Christ, what absolute trash.
Love Island can get in the bin. But the one that I most recently watched was The Traitors on BBC, which was absolutely fantastic.
And while I'm not exactly like going to turn around and say it's rubbish TV, it's just not the kind of thing I would watch.
No.
And I appreciate that it's actually been like it's good. It doesn't feel like manufactured. It doesn't feel like it's been corporatized like music does to me, which is great, but it's not really my thing. I think there's any if I'm ever put in a position where I unfortunately have to be reminded of how thick people are, that's what irritates me. So that's why reality TV, because I mean, not to tar everyone with the same brush, but when you have like proper schlocky reality TV, people are thick. And it really annoys me. So I'm like, I've got no time for people like that.
I think the reason I enjoyed The Traitors so much was because no one on there was overtly stupid.
It was a much more mature take on like a reality series.
Yeah, everybody was clever for their own reasons, and everybody had their reason for being there. And I really enjoyed it from the psychological perspective of just seeing how everybody reacted to this like idea. And we love social deduction board games at home. We play them all the time. So watching one on TV with a massive prize fund really kind of like
it ups the ante quite a bit.
Yeah, a lot. And I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fantastic. I'm not going to watch the American one because I think Americans over dramatize everything. So sorry if you're American, but I don't mean that as a everyone specifically. I just mean people who tend to be on TV shows.
American television culture is very different to British TV culture.
So I won't watch the American one, but I did really enjoy that. So they're kind of the main things we disagree on. We don't really disagree on a lot. I think that's what makes us so compatible with each other, is the fact that even if we do disagree, we very much
don't hold it against each other.
Opinions. Yeah.
No.
We never argue really at all unless it's just something like you haven't done the washing up or I haven't done the washing up, and even then we don't argue. It's literally, can you do it? And I'll go, yeah. Like
we've never like actually had a proper argument ever. We've been together for 9 years. We're just so good. Final question. We're nearly there after almost 2 hours. We knew it would be a long one, but it's fine.
God, has it been nearly 2 hours? Yeah. Jesus. Okay, so final question. Jack Asberry?
Jack Asberry.
I nearly said, no, I think it's Jack Asbury, actually. I nearly said Jack Asbury, but that's not
we're sorry,
it
Jack.
at all.
We're sorry.
Jack Asbury asks, how did it feel being asked back for the WhoCulture anniversary video a while ago? I started watching that channel while you were hosting it, and I lit up seeing you at the end, as the whole way through I was thinking, it would be nice if they got Rich back for the thank you, and then you appeared.
There I am. Honestly, it was really nice. I'll be perfectly honest with you. When I left WhoCulture, I unsubscribed from all the channels. I didn't watch anything. Didn't listen to any of the podcasts, anything like that. And to be perfectly honest with you, I still don't. It's the kind of content that when you're in the middle making it for 4 years, you get bored of it. Like, because I was reviewing people's work, like freelance editors who were contributing videos and stuff, and I had to do feedback and go, oh, you messed this up, can you fix this, can you do that, blah 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 blah. Sometimes people are good, sometimes people are dicks. It was a pain. So I've watched so many list videos in my time. Watching anymore, nah, not interested in the slightest. But WhoCulture I always kept an eye on because it was the channel I had. As much as I was more, really most of my work was in the gaming channel, WhoCulture was sort of my baby, kind of, sort of, not really, because it was never really mine, never that I ever really wanted it to be. But I always kept tabs on how things were going with it and so on and so forth, what content they were making and stuff like that. And there was a pretty constant thing at WhoCulture that was re-uploading old content, which was, for me, from wanting to always be making good stuff, making new stuff, it always annoyed me, but I wasn't the one calling the shots, so I couldn't do anything about it. And they uploaded, when I said earlier in the video about how when WhoCulture launched, we did videos for the other channels to promote WhoCulture. And one of them was Times Doctor Who appeared in video games, so it went on the gaming channel. I did the voice over for it. I don't think I edited it. I might have done. I can't remember. And it got re-uploaded to the WhoCulture channel because it's like, fair enough. It's not something they just uploaded an old video again, which they did a lot at WhoCulture. But when they reposted this video, and it was after I'd left, and they'd literally put in a pinned comment like, oh, this was made by Rich, he's on Twitter here, you can go and see what he's doing now. It's like, do you know what? I'd have never expected that in a million years from the WhoCulture team. So when I saw that, I was genuinely touched by it. So when Danny got in touch, who's an editor who I worked with on WhoCulture back in the day, he's still at WhoCulture now working on WhoCulture. You've seen him in some of the videos, actually. He got in touch with me on Twitter and said, yo, we're doing this 100K thing, and it's not going to be right to do it without you, because at the end of the day, you're the one who launched the channel. You were the face of it for the first, just shy of a year. So we need you back for it. And it felt really nice. And because and I've discussed this on previously on Escaping Kasterborous and stuff like that, my relationship with WhoCulture as a company, it's not brilliant, I suppose, because of how, not so much how things ended, but the reason why my departure came about were not good. My relationship with the people who are still there, like the people on the ground making the content, is still very good. So being asked back, I had no bad blood. I was never going to go, yeah, whatever, I'm not doing another WhoCulture video again. I mean, I cameoed in These Things Suck on the gaming channel with Osley. Osley's bit didn't get put in the video.
Oh no.
I just remembered, we shot stuff with me and Osley, and Osley's bit didn't get put in. But I cameoed in that, which was really nice, and people were excited to see me in the comments. So that was really nice. So I was never against doing cameos and stuff and appearing. I keep saying to Jules and Scott, I want to do a UBP with you, because it'd be really cool. So yeah, being asked back for the 100K special was very special to me, and I'm glad that I was sort of taken into consideration. I wouldn't have been offended if I wasn't, because at the end of the day, I left. I'm not expecting to be continuing to get clout for being on the channel or anything like that. But it was very nice when Danny got in touch, and I got to do a video alongside Sean and Ellie and Will and Danny. Like I barely spoke to Sean when I was at WhoCulture. I think he was still quite new at the time. He was working mainly on Trek. Ellie I've never worked with before because she started after I left, but they have done such a great job with the channel. The people who watch the channel really, really enjoy what they have to say, and their content's good. So I'm glad to see WhoCulture still going. It could have just been killed off like every other specific, like WhoCulture specific channel, but it didn't. It's still going. It's over 100K. It's really good to see, and I was genuinely honoured to be asked back again. So it was very nice. Same again for 200K, 250, a million, I don't know. Maybe I'll get WhoCulture on my channel when I hit 100K. If I hit 100K. It'd be nice, but it's a lot of work. But we'll see how things go.
Maybe.
But that was indeed a lot of work. That was a lot of questions. But that's, as far as I could see, literally every question I could find. If you did submit a question somewhere and we haven't read it out, I can only apologise, but I was digging through YouTube, both on comments on a video and a post, Twitter across a couple of different posts, and then Spotify as well. I think that was all of them. If we have missed any, apologies. We may do one of these again in the future if you really enjoyed it and you got more things you want us to ask, want to ask us. Then let us know in the comments or on Twitter at Kasterpod or in the Q&A question mentioned thingy on Spotify. But yeah, this has been a nice long podcast chatting rubbish to each other.
It's been nice. I can't believe it's been 2 hours.
I know, that has actually gone quite quick. I think because
really quickly.
We haven't had to sit here and drum up what the next topic of conversation regarding an episode is going to be. We've just kind of gone, here's the next question, easy peasy pie. So we thank you all so much for listening and or watching if you can see us. Got to remember we're on camera. Apologies for my camera just doing its own thing in terms of exposure, but it's a webcam. What do you expect? But Happy New Year to all of you. Again, hope you had a lovely Christmas. We're very much looking forward to getting on with Series 4 because next it's going to be Partners in Crime, which will be coming in the next few weeks. And it's going to be good. We're going to try and stick with you a lot more over the course of this year. If you are not subscribed to me on YouTube, please do, because I know I have content on the way because I'm genuinely make more of an effort. And if you guys want to see it, please let me know and I will try my best. Yeah. So, yeah. Busy year, Escaping Kasterborous, YouTube, and getting married.
Yeah.
Good grief. And then we're going to look for a house after that.
Oh, God.
It's all go for us.
Money, life.
Help. We need to sell a lot of lunch, dinner, egg t-shirts to pay for a house.
Oh, yeah. I'd forgotten about that.
Which we still haven't done yet.
I love how nobody was like, yeah, I'd do that. Yeah, no, I don't blame any of you for not wanting a t-shirt that says lunch, dinner, egg.
I think a few people actually did want a t-shirt that says lunch, dinner, egg.
Did they?
Reminders. I tell you, 2023 is the year of the lunch, dinner, egg t-shirt. It's finally going to happen. Amy, where can people find you on the socials?
You can find me on Instagram at Ames_Elizabeth. That is AIMS_Elizabeth with a Z.
As for me, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at PickupChangeToe, which you now know more about, thanks to Misha's question earlier. And of course, you can find Kasterpod on Twitter at Kasterpod for questions and updates and stupid memes and I don't know what else, whatever I remember I've got the account to log into to do stuff with. Like I said, it's just kind of as and when. But we appreciate your time. Thank you all so much for submitting questions. Let us know if you want to see this again in the future. And join us next time for Series 4. Donna Noble is back. Partners in Crime. Time for the fat to start walking.
I'm excited.
Have a great rest of your week. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
I remember to look in the camera. Bye.